hear you. Welcome back to another episode, guys. Today we're going to be talking about mental health. I'll have everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nadia.
Just Deep Sing Sony.
And I'm Svetlana. Doug is not here, but we're going to roll with it.
I
Roll.
like how much energy and happiness you got when you're talking about mental health.
Oh, yeah. No, mental health is, is a topic that I actually have been wanting to talk about on the pod for a while because God knows when I came in to optometry school, I did not know it'd be like this. But let's talk about mental health before optometry school. So, JD, what was your mental health like before optometry school? What were you doing? Kind of give us that.
I took a year off to work into a career or job. I worked in sales for a year and was also taking the OAT and applying to optometry schools. I would say mental health at that point was very good because when you're like striving towards working towards a goal, you're like kind of energetic and excited for what's next. And so I think the process of working on personal development and also applying to optometry schools was exciting. It's kind of like dating where you're like, oh, what school am I going to go to? You start envisioning yourself at every campus. You start imagining all the people in the interviews, like, could be friends with them. So I would say overall things were like really good, looking up and excited for what was going to come.
What about you, Nadia?
Kind of felt opposite a little bit because it was this time in my life where I was applying and I didn't know what my future was. I'm kind of a planner, so I want to know, like, oh, this is kind of going to be my next year. This is going to be my next 3 years. So for me, it was like, where am I going to be? Who am I going to be friends with? Like, where am I going to be living? It didn't really make me feel like I had like a stable future, and I didn't like that part of it. I think in like the times in my life that I've been like the most drained mental health wise, applying to school, like that whole application process is probably like one of the worst times, and then third year was like the second worst.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, like Judy said, like, oh, it was like dating. It's like, I guess we all have different aspects of like what dating is, right? For me, I'm like, ugh, is this the one? Like, is this person going to choose me? Is this school going to choose me? Like, I can love the school all I want, and then you don't love me back. Like, what's the point, kind of thing. So I think opposite a little of JD there.
Wow. Yeah, I get both of you. I think I'd find myself kind of in the middle. Um, Now that you mention it, Nadia, applying to school was very stressful, but I don't think it brought down personally my mental health, or I had a concept of my mental health is here and now it's like way lower until I entered optometry school. But definitely now that I think about it, it was a very stressful time trying to decide what school I was going to go to, if they were going to accept me, if they were going to like me. Um, so now that I think about it, I think it is a time that really lowers your mental health and you're kind of like just starting to feel what I think first year of optometry school does to you. So, JD, how was your um, mental health hitting first year or during first year?
I would say it's like when you jump in the shower and it's like really cold water, you just get like that huge shock and you're like, oh my God, like this is insane. And I think over the time when you're in the shower, you kind of get used to the water. But in the beginning, it's rough. So any little thing is hard. Moving to a new state or new city, making new friends, meeting people all over the country or the world. And then the content, it's not like the content is something novel. You're probably taking a lot of normal biology courses or courses maybe that have a background that you've taken in the past, but when it's all compiled in a week or 2 weeks, that can be really stressful. And so I would say, yeah, it was definitely rough. I would say it's nice having people that are going through the same things with you and thinking through same processes with you. And so, yeah, I would say the beginning, the first year, everything is just like, wow, like this is so new. This is hard being on your own. But I think that's where I think we all probably found solutions to those problems. But let's get into those. But how was your experience, Nadia?
First year, let me think back. Um, Yeah, I think that, I mean, I agree with what JD said. It's kind of like, I'm, you're learning. I was in a whole new state and I had to learn how to like live in California, and I had to learn like where's the grocery store? And I had to learn, like, who are my new friends? I didn't know a single person. And I think mentally, like, I went into it like, oh, it's going to be fine, because I'm the kind of person who is like friends with everybody, because I just am not like a shy person. So I wasn't like afraid that I was going to be alone. But being away from my family, like, that was really hard for me, because they were 3,000 miles away. They couldn't just stop by whenever I needed them. If something went wrong, I had to take care of it. So I think in that sense, it was hard mentally. But as far as school went, I mean, I did a master's degree, so it was kind of like on par with like all that level of kind of like pushing through the classwork. And I think I was lucky because I had a really good group of friends and at the time classmates. And so we kind of all went through it together. And I think looking back, first year was one of my favorite years. So yeah. How's it going, Svet? You're what? Year 3 now. So how was year 1?
Year one was horrible for me. Um, and not, I think year one was hard for me because there's the aspect that I moved to Northern California. I'm originally from Southern California, and I felt like I moved to a different state, even though I'm still in California. I grew up like in the suburbs of Southern California, and then I come to Berkeley, a city next to San Francisco, a city. So although I feel like I wasn't really used to a city lifestyle, so just to adjusting to the city was one aspect. I am the oldest out of all my siblings, so leaving my siblings behind, and I think when you're like the oldest sibling, you're kind of like always playing mom. Not that my mom wasn't present. Mom's a great mom, but like I'm the oldest. I'm taking care of everyone, helping people with homework, picking them up from school, and that responsibility one is completely gone, which feels felt a little relieving in the beginning, but at the same time started to feel guilty later on, like, oh no, who's helping them with their homework, who's picking them up from school, things like that. That no one really prepared me for it. Same thing looking for like a grocery store or a doctor. I'm in my third year and I still don't have a primary care doctor out here. It just hasn't. I've tried to find a doctor, it just not working out. So yeah, like medical wise too, has that was an adjustment in first year. And then I think in first year I felt like it was a when we're talking about optometry school, the course load, I knew it was going to be difficult, and the expectations like in clinic, I knew that nothing was going to be easy, but I think it was a big like it went from 0 to 100, and after the second month. The first month was really chill. We had no exams. It was just like, hey, keep on top of material. And then suddenly we had exam. And it was like, oh, shoot, this is optometry school. And this is the pace we're going to adjust to. Or this is what I have to get used to, you know? And then on top of all the emotional aspects, I think first year was probably the worst year for me.
Do we need to do a podcast finding you a doctor?
We should. If you're a PCP in Berkeley, let me know because I need a doctor.
It's unique how we all had different experiences and places where we came from, where we went to. So how we all have a different story here, even though we went through similar processes.
Hmm. How did things change for you guys in second year? Nadia,
I
go ahead.
think, yeah, go ahead, Nadia.
Um, Second year was great.
Uh-oh.
Second year, what should I say about it? It was really hard, but I was also going through some medical problems at the time. So I actually had to redo second year. So first second year was hard, and then second year was really was better because I had already kind of been exposed to the material. But mental health wise, obviously, it was very very hard because just having to put myself first and thinking like maybe I should take a step back for a little bit just to like take care of my own health and everything um, was like a big toll. It was still not the most depressing year, surprisingly. But I think everything happens for a reason, and you come out of it a stronger person, mentally, physically. And I actually have no regrets. I at the time it was really hard for me to like kind of start over almost, and like I was lucky enough to have um, a good core group of friends still. And I think that's really important to find like your people, and so that made it so much easier because it felt like you were going through this journey with somebody, and if you're on a hard path, having somebody to like be like, hey, you back there, and they're like, yeah, then it makes you feel better, right? So me and I won't name names, but me and another kid were like doing second year again together, and so it was like having somebody who understood, I think, mentally what that felt like. um, just like knowing like, okay, we're in this and we're kind of like outsiders even though we're trying to get on the inside, and I think having him in my life, it was very like important, and I don't think I would have made it without him because he was like my mental cheerleader the whole time, right? Because sometimes we just get in our heads about things, and so having somebody to outlet and express that to, if it's going through that same thing with you, is very important.
Oh, yeah, that's such a unique experience. Not everybody gets that either. Uh, is there any advice you'd give someone who has to repeat like a year in optometry school and how to go about it and what kind of mental frame to have with it?
Um, it's different because it depends on the reason, right? For me, it was like they were like, "Okay, you really need to take care of yourself," and I was like, "No, I'm fine," and they were like, "No, you really just need to slow down," and I was like,
Mm.
"Okay." But there's some people who like maybe they need that time to grow, and at the time you're like, oh, should I feel embarrassed? Should I feel this and that? And it's like it feels like the world's ending, but it's not. I mean, in the end, it was like so much better for me. Um, I felt like the old class I was with, they were really nice and like, all these things. But at some point, I felt like I outgrew them maybe or something. And so they were like bringing my mental health down in a way. And so being part of like a new class was like actually like refreshing. It was like a restart.
Mm.
So I was able to kind of like not feel like I had to deal with all the drama of, sorry, of the old class. And so then I was able to kind of like smoothly transition into this like new class. And I think the fact that like I had these other people with me that were like going through the same thing, um, I don't know. I don't know what they thought of us, but I didn't really care because I was like, ah, at this point, my optometry school experience is a little different than everybody else, right? So it's like I'm just going to do what the experience is like for me, and I'm going to take care of myself and my own mental health. And I was with Steven at the time, and so it was like really nice because he would come home and take care of me, and we'd do things, and so that part felt normal. My friends were the same. Like Libna was still my best friend, Eris was still my best friend, Sylvia was still my best friend. Like my core best friends that I had before were the same, and those people are never going to look down on you or treat you any differently. In fact, one time one of the people from the new class was like, oh, that's nice that they still hang out with you. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what are they supposed to do? Like, they're my best friends. So I think that my advice is just to like keep going because everything happens for a reason, and that's the time that you need. And I don't know who's religious or believes in destiny or God or whatever, but God's like putting you on a certain path, and that's the path for you, and you just don't know what he has planned for you, and you just have to kind of like trust him.
I love that, Nadia. I know whoever's listening, I feel encouraged. So I think whoever's listening to your story and how positive and how you look at it now is definitely going to make someone else feel better if they're struggling with the same thing you did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sign me up for school again. Let's repeat.
Mm,
No, no, no.
that's not what I meant.
No, no, no. We're not doing that.
Not the same, not the same. Okay,
I
just
know your
messing.
second year isn't as cool as mine, JD, but go ahead and talk.
No, I think second year. I mean, I think second year university is challenging because first year they're like, "What is the eye?" and then they talk about the anatomy and physiology, and the second year it's like, "What's messed up?" And so that can be really challenging, learning every single condition, disease, and then coming after that summer, hopefully that summer rejuvenates you if you have that summer off. But I think you said the key was having friends and community around you. I think for me, my roommate or close friends, like, hey, this test was hard. It's not our fault, but you know what? We're gonna do better on the next one. And like having people to hype you and keep you going is super crucial. When I was one of those students who was also struggling to pass classes, and so they set me up with professors on a one-to-one individual basis, and even had conversations with our dean who kind of got me back on track, who were like, hey, look, statistically, students who are performing like this don't pass part one. Statistically, students who don't pass part one are more likely not to keep passing part one and also not end up in board. So, and get their degree. So like, I think having one-on-one conversations also with professors was really helpful, and that's something that I like our school about. Having like 50, 55 people, it's very intimate and small. And so being able also to like talk to students so close, like for example, our valedictorian, I because there's like 50 of us, we know each other so well. I was able to go up to it and be like, hey, look, I need help. Can you help tutor me? And so I think utilizing your staff, utilizing classmates, utilizing your professors, and having a good community of people around you to keep you in check is like super crucial, especially year two.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, JD, and I'm really happy that your school straight up said that, statistically, this could be you, not that it is you, but you could be going down this path. I think that's a great way that they worded that. That I felt like
It,
wasn't directly attacking you, maybe?
well, it motivates you, right? Like, hey, look, like this is the future. If I'm like continue on this path, what can I do different to change the path? And so changes were made based on suggestions from year
Yeah,
two, which I'm very appreciative of.
yeah, yeah. I really like that your school did that. Um, for me, the second year was so much better than first year, and I think that's like the opposite for most people. And I think for me, it was I just came into terms with I figured out how to like be successful in optometry school. I figured out, okay, this is the way it is. This is how I'm gonna survive, or this is like I already went through it the first year. I figured it out, and I know how to succeed for the rest of the years. Um, and I think in first year I lost like all my hobbies, all my like extra curricular activities, like just going to the gym. I was not going to the gym in first year, but by second year, or I wasn't even because I'm by myself. I had to like cook for myself. Da, da, da. I wasn't even cooking like good food for myself either in first year. So figuring out, okay, these are the meals I can make. This is how I can meal prep. This is the times I can go to the gym. This is the times where I can have time with like my professors and whatnot. That's how second year was better for me. And I think in second year, everything from first year that was like, this is like the eye, and then all the random anatomy, all the random visual perception stuff, it all just like comes together because now you're focusing more on preparing for clinic. And that for me was like the biggest difference. Like, okay, I do remember this, or I can put this and this together from first year, and it really makes sense now in second year. And I'm actually doing this, practicing with my classmates. And then in second year we started to see patients in like group settings, so then having that too was also extremely helpful to kind of see the big picture as to why I was even doing this, because my friends and I talk about it. And in first year we had those moments where we would just kind of sit there and be like, is this even worth it? But by second year it was like, like this is worth it. Like look at what we did with this patient today. So definitely had like full circle moment from first year to second year. Okay, let's talk about third year, and third year brings boards. JD, bring us into third year.
Yeah, that for me, that extension of second year, of course, but like you said, it's all about boards. It's no longer about, I mean, classes and passing classes are important, but it's like all focus is turned to boards, including studying in class, including balancing classes just to get through boards. And so I think looking at part one and knowing that, if you don't pass this, it can get harder and harder or get in a loop and lead to patterns. That was motivating. And part one's the hardest one, as we know. And so I think, yeah, just dedicating the whole year was just about boards. And so right when that was over, that was awesome to kind of relax and let loose. But that's where, for me, I tried creating solutions to kind of get through. I used to go study in the library or centers where I could see other friends occasionally and take breaks, kind of make it feel like you're doing a social event, but yeah, you're going to the library and studying together. I would say, as you said, it's just all about boards and getting through it. And so once you do, it's an amazing feeling. What about you, Nadia?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a sip of water before I crack into this year. We get it. Hold on. So just lead us into it. Hold on.
Okay. Um, I feel like I can't fully talk about third
Okay, I'm
year
ready. I'm ready. Hold on, I'm
Okay,
ready.
okay, go.
I gotta just chug this because I'm really gonna crack it open right now.
Okay. So Nadia is chugging water just like the way tears came out of her eyes in third year.
Yeah, basically. All right, third year. It's the most depressing year of my life. Yeah, so let me tell you guys about mental health for third year. Find a good therapist because you're gonna want to kill yourself. Like, really was like super depressed. I think there was a lot of extra pressure because of boards, but also because, like, they had said to me that I was going to take boards 3 times and not pass. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take boards 1 time and pass. I don't understand what that
Mhm.
means because they were doing the thing based on statistics, right? Like JD. But for me, I
Mhm.
was like, that's rude. You don't know me. Like, I'm really good at standardized tests. Like, this is my jam.
I am
Um,
Nadia.
yeah,
I
exactly.
am Groot.
I'm Groot. Yeah, I was like, I got a 400 on my OATs. Like, obviously, like, you don't know what I'm capable of. Whatever. So I felt extra pressure in that sense. Also, it's not like they give you time to study for boards. I don't know. It just depends on the school that you go to. We had
Yeah.
no time. We had no extra time. We actually had to take an entrance exam so that they said that we could take boards. So our school makes you take
Hmm.
a full length boards exam so that you can just be eligible to take boards. Otherwise, they
Oh
withdraw
wow.
you from boards. So
Mm.
passing that was a whole class. Like, if you failed the class, you failed school. Like, you literally failed a class. So the added pressure of that was insane because you didn't have time to study for boards because obviously the class is taking up so much of your time and energy because they're like trying to make it hard like boards, but it's not the same thing. So
Okay.
that was hard. And
Yeah,
so,
I can
like,
imagine.
preparing for that. And then we had midterms every single week until boards. So we didn't even have time off. So I was still, like, trying to pass my classes. And at that time we were all staying at home. And so, like, that was like a rough time too. And it was crazy. Like, I don't know when I was like sleeping because I don't think I was because I was literally like, okay, this is the time I'm going to study for my midterms. This is the time I have to study for the eligibility exam. And then the eligibility exams would be Saturdays for 8 hours or 4 hours or whatever the amount of time it was. So you give up your Saturday because you have to like set up your boards thing and then you take it. And then, afterwards your brain's like melting because you've just taken a 4-hour exam that like basically says whether or not you can take boards in the first place.
Mm.
So all of that together, my mental health was bad. I would cry every day. I would literally cry every day. Um, it was terrible, and I would never want to experience that again. The pass rate that year was like 48%. Um, and the first time we took it, only like half the class was eligible to take it because of the eligibility exam. So out of like the 70 people, only 35 people took it. And out of 35 people, only 33% passed. So that was 10 people that passed. And not gloating, but I was one of them because I had been crazy going out of my mind. And was it worth it? I mean, maybe, but I was really depressed. So, I mean, my advice is just
It's a little delayed.
it's delayed. What's delayed?
Oh, the cheering, did you hear it?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I got it. Keep
Okay.
cheering.
I
Yay.
thought I was delayed. I was like, makes sense. Third year.
Oh,
The third year
damn.
ghosts of time are coming for me.
It's optometry school all over again.
Yeah. So, I just want you guys to know that third year is going to be the worst year ever, and that's just how it is. So that's it. Just run through it. That's my experience. JD, you feel like you had a little different experience than me, huh?
No, I mean, I think the boards process is definitely challenging for everyone. If you don't pass, I think seeing some classmates who didn't, they felt that same feelings that you were saying when you don't pass a year in school. Like, hey, I don't know if I can do this. Will I be able to do this? But I've seen some people who just the pressure of the test was hard. Not that they weren't brilliant doctors, potential doctors. So, challenges and road obstacles happen. But whether you pass boards or need to redo your year, you can still get through it. And you just got to persevere a little bit because now at the end of the day, let's say you waited a year. You know what? And 40 years from now, 1 year. what was 1 year out of 40 that you had to wait, and maybe you became a better doctor from doing it over again. So
Yeah,
I
19
think,
boards. That's like the smartest that you are, like ever.
yeah,
Like,
everything's the freshest.
yeah, I already forgot everything. Like a corneal thickness, I know, but like stromal thickness, I don't know if I know the exact number anymore. Like the percentage of water in the cornea, I mean, maybe I could do a multiple choice, but also boards is like not what they tell you it is. I think you go
Mm.
into it and you're like, what? Because you have to know like so much. It's not like first order questions, it's like third order questions, so it's like you have to know so much about so many other things.
Mm.
Absolutely. It's not even life either. So that's why some of those things you don't remember. Like part one is not necessarily what's applicable fully in clinic. Like it doesn't make Nadia a good or bad doctor for knowing those numbers. But part two is more of that. So I think part one
I'll
is
be
just one of those
terrible
you have
at
to
part
get through.
two, so
Yeah. How's it going
yeah.
right now? It's been a month for you, Svet, for third
Yeah,
year?
it's been a month into third year, and I think right now I don't have a full grasp on mental health in third year just because so I don't have a summer break. If anyone's listening, don't know, you don't get that summer break anymore. I started summer clinic, and summer clinic has been amazing. Like I only have 2 to 3 days in clinic, and I also work at the clinic, so I do like front desk stuff. So that's kind of compiled my summer currently, and I feel like my mental health right now is the best that it's ever been in optometry school, but I'm mentally telling myself that it's going to go to shit soon once
Wow.
board studying starts.
Just wait.
I know. That's why I feel like it's great. This summer has been so refreshing, and it's nice to know that I can have a summer with optometry versus like first year summer where you like completely forget you're an optometry student and you like relax. So it's nice to know, okay, I've had this summer break. I'm seeing patients. I feel cool. Like I feel like I'm actually doing this. But I know once board studying starts coming, it's just going to go downhill. Actually, too, we all got an email yesterday. Yesterday was so people know, like early July 3rd, that we have, like in part three, we have the stations. They're
Mhm.
gonna test us randomly on one of the stations in August, and that's gonna be part of our fall one grade.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we're already like our school's already getting us to start thinking about boards and prepare for it, and that's part three. That's not even part one. But we're getting ready. We're going to be practicing those stations, and it's going to be like a practical setting almost, but they're going to be doing it just like boards. So now it's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Well, on the bright side, fourth year,
Yeah, fourth year. What's that like?
the best year. It's depends, I think, on the rotations that you choose. JD, did you guys choose your rotations, or did you get like how does it work?
It was a bit of a lottery system, so you put in your top three choices for four rotations for each quarter, and then they do a bit of a lottery and then give you based on where you put in. And I was fortunate to get my top choices, so I'm very happy about that process.
Yeah, we had numbers too, but they would pick your numbers for you, and then it
Mm.
was very chaotic. And then you'd have to like choose the site, but then it was like in a number order. So if you were number one and you already chose, the number two can't pick your site kind of thing.
Hmm.
It was
Like a
chaotic.
draft.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, exactly. So, I had three rotations in Florida, and my last one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a little adventurous girl, and I'm gonna go to Arizona in the middle of nowhere. So 3/4 of them were great. I had a great time. My last one was at the Indian Health Reservation. No regrets, but I think it was very challenging because I just feel like the preceptor was very like, okay, make sure you're about to be a doctor. You got to be like very, and so I would like chart until like 10 p.m. Like I'd literally stay until clinic until 10 to like chart these patients because everyone had something. We were the only clinic for like miles. We worked in the hospital. I do like bedside care. Like I would literally go to hospital beds. So that
Oh.
was a crazy time, but now I know how to treat uveitis because every day I'd have one. But
Mm.
in general, like if there was a year that I could go back and relive, it would be fourth year, because I just got to my first rotation was with Dr. Perry, and he is still one of my greatest like friends and assets in Florida. He is like the head of Vision Source, so I got really lucky. I still go over there to visit him all the time, and my interns, they're like my sisters now. There was three of us there, and they were both from a different school, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna feel left out, but then we just all became so close. And then my second rotation, I was in South Florida, which was great because I got to go back because I had done grad school there. So it was kind of like, kind of closing a chapter for me there. And then
Mm.
I was at the Villages, which is a VA, and I got to go with my good friend Sharon. And so that was like a wild time. It was like Christmas time and Thanksgiving, and we had a good group of interns, and the preceptors were super nice. And so that was like, I'm gonna cry because that was like one of the funnest times ever. It was like an old people town, right? So then like the old people would drive in their golf carts, and we just, there was nothing to do, so we just roll the windows down and we just have a playlist, and we just like drive around.
Aw.
And it was just like really fun, like these things where you're like not stressed out about these like mundane things anymore, right? Where it's like, okay, I have this exam. I mean, we still had stuff to do, like we still had part two, we still had part three, but like it wasn't as like ominous, I guess, in a way. So it just felt like more freeing mentally.
You're so happy right now. You're like, I went to Subway and I met this guy named Mike. I shook his hand. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Elkhart.
Yeah. That's how happy you were.
There was like
No,
a
for
water tower that we called ominous, and we'd visit him all the time. It was really fun, guys. I just,
Aw.
would recommend.
yeah, I
That's
think
cute.
it's all happy vibes in some sense because everything's actually like clinically relevant. Like when you talk about studying for part two, when you're in rotations, when you're learning, you're like, wow, I actually see like tangible things happening here. This is not some imaginary like experience that we're discussing. And so that's really rewarding. And then going to travel, see different places, and not have to study, just sit in class every day, all the day. Like you're actually in clinic. So that was like definitely rewarding and gets you excited for what's next. For me, COVID hit, so that was a unique experience, but no
Mm.
complaints. Was able, we all still graduated from home or whatever it may be. So that was a fun process to go through. I think overall from school, like if I had to go back or give myself tips or give other tips to other people, would be like we shared, have like a good community around you, have people you can talk about like issues that are going on with you. One thing I wanted to bring up was something that my therapist taught me was she taught me to do two things. Anytime like a something happens that causes you to have like anxiety or panic attack, number one, think about why the emotions you have are good things. So for example, it's like let's say I failed an exam and I was really upset about it. Why is that a good thing? So that's a good thing because I care about how I want to do in school, and this is an indicator that I'm not doing to the ability of my best ability here. So that's one thing I want to share with everybody. Repeat why emotions are good for you that are happening. And another thing my therapist makes me do is we go through a list of cognitive distortions, basically things that you think are reality that are happening that are not reality. So, for example, some of them are called like all or nothing thinking. So I fail one test, I feel like I'm going to fail all my tests. But that's not necessarily reality because just because you failed one test doesn't mean you will fail all of them. So I'll just read through the cognitive distortions that we go over: all or nothing thinking, overgeneralizing, mental filter. Mental filter is when you're dwelling on negatives and ignoring the positives. Discounting positives, which speaks for itself. Jumping to conclusions, magnification or minimization. Emotional reasoning. For example, you use reasoning from your feelings like I feel like an idiot, so I must be one. Should
Mm.
statements, labeling instead of saying I made a mistake, and then self blame or other blaming. So I think these things all kind of relate to each other, but the point is when you're not seeing reality and then you're feeling a certain way and then just keep dwelling on your feelings and not saying, hey, look, I can do this. I did pass the OAT. I did apply to school. I did get interviewed. I did get accepted. I did graduate. Why can't I get through this if I fail or if I get through boards? So I just using these techniques, having a good circle to call on, count on your faculty, count on your friends. I think all very important.
Yeah, if I could go back, I think that what I learned later in like school and stuff is just take one thing at a time. I think I was getting very like overwhelmed, and it's hard to get in your head about, you're like, I have 700 things to do, like I have 4 exams this week. I think when we started being like, okay, let's just do really well at the beginning of school and the semester, and then that way at the end of the semester we can like relax a little bit when we know that it's going to get really overwhelming, right? So
Mm.
we'd be like, okay, Because at first I'd be like, ugh, it's okay, it's just one quiz. But that one quiz is like at the beginning, and it sets you up to like be able to kind of like maybe not do well on the last quiz, right? So
Yeah.
just being able to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on like this one quiz. Okay, I'm going to pass it. Okay, out of the way. Next quiz, and just like breaking things up into like these like tiny manageable things versus like being like, oh, I have like 17 things to do. Like, here's all the things, and just being like, okay, one thing at a time.
Yeah, if I had to give my tips for mental health, um find know that having an open mind and being kind to yourself from the beginning, and just know that your mentality is going to change because Svetlana in high school and college was a straight A girl. If I didn't have straight A's, I was making sure that we got that A. Like there was no in between. Like it was gonna be an A. Svetlana in optometry school sees a B and celebrates that. Like she doesn't care anymore. A B minus, okay. As long as it's not an F, and in Berkeley there's no C's, which is why I'm saying like B minus is like the lowest you can get. If I really got that B minus, oh well. Like we're still going. My mental health is more important than that B minus. Um, and I just say that, and I say that with I say it very casually now. I say it with like excitement because that wasn't who I was before. If I didn't have an A, tears would be coming down. I'd be like, I suck, I can't do this, I'm an idiot, da da da, all those like very negative.
All nothing thinking, discounting
Yeah.
positives,
Yep. Yep. What
emotional
else? What
reasoning.
else? Yeah. And it makes me feel so relieved if I get a B plus. That was amazing. Good job, Svetlana. Let's keep going. Like when you're a doctor, no one's gonna ask you, were you the valedictorian? Did you get all A's? Like, did you get a C? Like, if your school has C's, did you get a C? Nobody's gonna be asking you. If you passed optometry school, you passed your boards, you're good. And that mentality though took me so long to understand because if I don't have an A, then I suck, and I need an A, and whatever I do, I need to get this A. So I would say mental health, coming to terms with that, and whether or not you have to come to terms with that with a therapist or just talking to yourself. I came to terms with it by journaling. I love to journal. Lots of everybody knows that I journal all the time. I go on walks and I journal. That has been like the best thing ever. If you're religious, believe in God, I'm always journaling and reading my Bible at the same time. So I bring my Bible and my journal together. So then whatever is going on during that time, I find Bible verses that help me. And just having that routine of journaling, reading my Bible, walking has been the biggest improvement on my mental health. And that is separate from going to the gym because the gym has also helped my mental health. And I think the community, having your really good close group of friends that you can share your exam scores with is huge. I don't know about you guys, but like having some people that you're like, yeah, I failed this test, or no, I did great, I'm above average, and having somebody who's not trying to compete with you, like a genuine group of friends that can understand and that can tutor you maybe like the night before the exam because you don't get something, or have like a genuine study session with, that is so so important for your mental health too, because you don't feel like you're isolated or you're alone, or like no one, people are judging you, or you're not good enough. All of that is needed, and all of that will improve. And also reach out to your professors if you're really struggling with your mental health. Tell your professors, or tell like the student affairs office that you're going through some changes. Maybe they'll recommend for you to be seen by a doctor if it's anxiety or depression. And sometimes you might have to take medication in optometry school. Maybe you haven't taken it before, but now you're taking it now, and that's totally fine. This is a weird period in life, and not saying that you're going to be taking medication forever. If you do take it for the rest of your life, then it's kind of like a blessing that you figured out this medication works for you. But if it's just for this time in optometry school, it's a blessing that that is available to help you get through optometry school too. So I think those would be overall the tips that I can put together right now as helpful.
Love that.
Those are
Great
really
way
good
to
tips.
wrap up the pod, I think.
Thanks.
Is there anything you want to add real quick about postgraduate?
Nadia.
Mm, I feel like it would be a whole new pod, to be honest, because there's so much to,
Mhm.
you know, change afterwards. I don't know. It's like it's different, right? It's like not the same kind of mental health. I mean, I feel better post. But I mean, there's other things that like arise now that I'm like have to deal with as an adult and like, as like a real life grown up. And so, like office dynamics and things like that. And like, it's just like a different mental health
That
part
could
of,
be our part two.
yeah, part two.
Part two. Okay. Okay, guys, stay tuned for mental health part two, post optometry school. Bye.
Bye.